He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Hana Tapiata, blogger, author, podcaster, author extraordinaire. She takes us through a journey of whakapapa effect. She also takes us through her identity, how she stripped it back and showed us how the whakapapa effect works. Kia ora, I'm Mary Baker and this is Toa Podcast.
Tēnā tātou, huri tēnei no tūhaurangi, Ngāti Hinimihi, Ngāti Tarawhai, ko Hana Tapiata ahau. Ka tīmata i te reo, hei pakeke mai au i ngā reke, he whiore ki oku whanaunga, ki o tōku tungane, e tākoro whutupōro ana. So I grew up with my cousins and friends and brother who all played rugby, wanted to get into it, I think played a little bit growing up. And then whānau moved here to Rotorua. And then some friends, they just were going for a jam, jumped in, was kind of good. And then they're like, oh, okay, come to this training and this training. And that evolved into playing for the Volcanics and then jumping into sevens, especially with the Go for Gold. So I went along to one of those evenings. I think the Bay put a team together, first time in a while. And then progressed with that team. I think it was just before Rio, so 2015, they pulled together a development squad for the sevens.
Right, yep.
Was named in that. And then into the wider training squad for the Black Ferns, I think in the same year.
What position did you play? You look like a winger.
Midfield.
That's a lot of contact. The centres, I think, 12 or 13.
Yeah, mainly 13 and then 12 sometimes. But yeah, I think the style that we had at the time, was crasher. And I liked the contact at the time. And then that was 2015, which was also the best year of my life at the time. So my dream job, made the squads.
What was your dream job?
Getting paid to run maunga, learn about whakapapa and share that with others.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, cool. And getting paid.
And getting paid to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then you're named in the development squad for the sevens and then building up to Rio and then wider training squad for the Black Ferns.
Wow, that's a good year, right?
Yeah, ideally or on paper, yeah.
Yeah.
And then things just started to intensify. We're getting closer to the end of the year, had a set of tournaments leading into that selection for Rio and also a really big event for work that I was in charge of that I wasn't prepared to do.
In terms of organisation, strategic operational organisation or...
All the above, yeah.
All of the above.
And then couple that with not wanting to seem like I didn't know, so didn't ask for help.
Hello, Mrs. Imposter Syndrome. We've all been there.
It's like, I can do this. I'll figure it out.
I don't need any help.
Yeah.
Right?
This thing, I've never done it before.
Is it like an event, like a big event? Like how big are we talking about?
It was the Te Arawa Awards where we celebrate the achievement of our rangatahi, hapu, marae.
Sports awards or...
Yeah, there were sports awards.
So all cultural, sports, heritage, everything?
Yeah. I don't know if you've done Gallup Strength Finders, but self-assurance is my number 2. So I was assured that, we'll figure it out.
It's belief and hope, right? That's what I go by.
And it was a good night, but I saw everything that went wrong. Like minor things that didn't matter, people going off the wrong side of the stage or music coming on when it wasn't meant to. People really enjoyed themselves. But I saw all those little things to mean that it was a failure. So I was a failure. And then a few days later we had rugby training, went in for a tackle, exhausted, and then I tore the ligament in the labrum in my shoulder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ouch. That hurts.
Yeah. But then the mindset I had at the time was I need to regain my honour somehow. I'll get it back in, making the team that goes to Rio. So with half a shoulder, I'm left-handed, injured my dominant shoulder, and I kept playing in those lead-up tournaments and played myself out of those squads and teams real quick.
You talk about your first ever event or anything, you always do pick up all the things that you've done wrong. We did a broadcast about a month ago for commentary, right? I was late. I just rolled up. My mic wasn't going. I didn't have a team list. And I was just like sitting there just, throw it on. Oh, that looks great, doesn't it? And so the funny thing is when you're younger, you just kind of really beat yourself up to be perfect. But as you get older, no F's given.
And on that, I've self-published 2 books. And I think there's a typo on the second page. So now it's like, ideally that's not in there.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean anything about me as a person, probably that I should get an editor, but I don't internalize it. So many things of Hana back then, I'm like, oh man, you just needed a hug. Like, you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, just chill out.
Do you think it's the fear of people seeing the inadequacies that you have? Or do you think that's what it is?
In the work I've done on myself, since I had to find an identity because I wasn't playing rugby anymore. Yeah, after that injury, I was like, well, what does being Hana mean if I'm not playing rugby? And I didn't have an answer. I was like, that's not right. That you've tied your identity and your worth to a job or, this hobby at the start. And then I just traced it back as a young girl. Always used to think deeply, and ask questions and try to figure out why things were this or that or not this. And then remember being shunned for that. It's like, okay, people are annoyed with me when I do that, but they like it when I make the rep team or if I get a good report and those. So I'll do more of what people like because I want people to like me. And like the whakapapa of that, or the process, the effect that comes from that is like you don't know who you are if you're not playing rugby. It should be fun and joyous and those kinds of things. And I get high performance is another level, but that should be at the core of it.
It's funny about high performance because you get critiqued quite in depth, I think, in high performance. And it's quite detrimental, I think, because you're just always striving for perfection. But there's no such thing as perfection.
Yeah, in such a competitive environment where they're your mates, but you're also competing for the same spot.
There isn't a lot of te reo speakers in women's rugby. There is a few, but you don't see them. Like Ariana's one, and she's amazing, and she comes out and she's great. Yeah. But you don't actually see a lot, and I find that really bizarre because it's like most of the team is Māori.
I haven't really thought about that before, but at that high level, you mean, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wahine hold so many roles, and there are so many who would be amazing at that top level. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'd be so incredible, but they're doing so many other roles for their whānau, the marae or community, that when they weigh up what they want to do, what they want to give their time to, it's not to progress, it's to keep speaking te reo Māori to their whānau. I think that might be a factor. It is shifting slowly, but also that critique that many Māori and even non-Māori will have, that if you pronounce a kupu just with a slightly prolonged, like you said, haka, not haka, or the critique for this piece, or not just piece of you, like of who you are, and you'll get blasted for it.
Oh, definitely get
why
blasted.
bother?
Yeah. I must admit, like, I get blasted all the time for my reo. It's terrible.
Yeah. And then like what you were saying before about how hypercritical the environment is because you're striving for perfect, that's hard enough, let alone this cultural identity that you've not been as engaged with because you've pursued this pathway. For some, the minute you try to acknowledge it or, breathe life into it, you're ridiculed for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
might
be a factor as well.
How do you sort of get seen, or heard, or how does it just come out?
You practice it. You find someone who can help and support you in that, and you practice behind the scenes or in those moments leading up so that when it comes to the time, then at least you're becoming more comfortable with it, and so that when the moment comes, it'll
just
flow.
Comes out.
Yeah. And then you're probably going to get it wrong, but that's okay.
So you retired...
Yeah, in 2015, because I got injured, let the iwi down with that event.
Did you?
Yeah, dyed my hair blonde. I didn't let them down. They didn't even, they were like, why are you crying? Yeah, we had an awesome time. Oh man, the things I would do in like just the awhi for that Hana, that version of me back then, yeah, it would be turn out a lot different. But then again, had to go through that for whatever reason. Like I think with that whole identity thing and tying it to performance, suddenly be like, hey, be proud of me. I'm good, I can deliver. Look, like it had to be that bad so I could lean in the other way, like into whakapapa, and then the mahi that I've done since then is like, it was like a slingshot to be able to just really unpack tupuna mātauranga, whakapapa. So, okay, doesn't matter what I do, if I like me and the people I care about most also like me and love me for that, doesn't matter what I do.
How do you actually have the sense, what now?
So the place I was working, where I hosted or planned the awards, we just drilled in what does health and wellbeing look, feel and sound like as te aroa. So we climb maunga, learn different karakia and stuff. And one of the philosophies is that we're the culmination of all our tupuna have come before until you have babies. Then it's them. And so I conceptually knew that. I was like, okay, don't know what being hana means now that I'm not an athlete. So what could it mean? Well, back in the day, tupuna were really intentional about what they named the places they visited and about how they named their descendants. So, okay, my name's Hana. That's how much I stripped it back. I don't have that, so I'll start with my name. It's something I got. And then just, okay, in Māori it means to glow and like a shine, to shine or soft light. In Korean, it means to blossom and to flower. In Hawaiian, it means to work. And there's a few other meanings as well. So I was like, okay, I'll do those things. And so I just did those things. I'll try to be like nice to be around. Or that's how I interpreted it. Whatever I do, I'll work hard at it. And then I interpreted that flowering or blossom to like learning, enlightenment. So I'll just try to learn new stuff. I'll do it well and I'll try to be nice.
Yeah, but what does well mean? Like,
well, that's what I was piecing together.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
This is the piecing together piece. It's funny because, like, you can't always be kind. That's what I find. I try to be kind. Like, I'll be kind, but sometimes you're just a little bit moody. And as you get older, you're not there yet. Perimenopause happens.
Well, 2 babies under 3, testing that.
Yeah, how's that going? Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. They're so cool and I love being a mama. So much to unlearn. And then so many things, I was like, I didn't realise that was a thing. Wasn't ever allowed pink clothes or like purple or girly things. So I grew up real tomboy and like one of the boys kind of thing. And then my girl loves pink. And I was like, oh, yeah, you can wear whatever you want. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like those types of things.
It's kind of changed though. Don't you think that society's kind of changed as well? Like you can kind of do whatever, kind of be whoever you want, really.
Yeah. When you come at it from a Māori perspective, like there's still kawa and there's still, tikanga. So there's some structure that allows you to live and express yourself. And without those, it's chaos. And I figured that out. But even like in all of our kōrero, there's some type of structure. And I used to hate it. Like part of my identity as well of being an athlete was that I was chill and didn't plan. Hana didn't plan. She just goes with the flow, like cool. And so I would deliberately not plan, like set myself up like that because I was trying to hold on to this idea that, people perceive me that way. There was so much value on how I would be perceived by
as
others.
being chilled and cool.
Yeah. So I just wouldn't plan. I'd be like, could have definitely been avoided, but oh well.
When I lost my mother, I lost all my glue. And I was lost for a very long time because I used to just ring her up and just go, like, she accepted that I was crazy, so it was all good. But then I had to accept myself, just a little bit eccentric, a little bit this, a little bit that. And I had to accept that, whereas my mother held that for me.
Yeah,
and so I didn't have to do that. And then when she died, I had to go, oh, do I like myself? Do I know myself? Do I actually like myself?
In May, my dad passed away. So I was already beginning to unravel or just pull apart what being hana meant. And then my dad, leaves me in it. That's what it felt like. I just abandoned me in this moment of where I just, needed some kind of stability or grounding.
But that's the place where you have to do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's tough.
So he was overseas working with my mum, they're teachers, and he got sick and went over to visit him. He was improving. And so the day before I was about to head home, I went in to visit him. He's kōrero māua, I mea atu, ka kite i a koe ki te kāinga. I was like, we only spoke Māori to each other and my brothers. And I said, I'll see you back at home. And he nodded, yeah. said goodbye. I caught a plane back home the morning after, and on the layover, I got the call that he passed. Yeah, so alone in this place, already unsure what was up or down, and just felt like a vacuum. Oh, I don't even have any words. It just sucked. It was really hard. I thought it was my fault, because I said, I'll see you back home. So he knew I was leaving. And if he didn't know, would he have held on? Or nothing can prepare you for it either. I'm just there at the moment.
Yeah.
Nothing can prepare you for it. Nor should it. Nor can anything replace what that feels like. A friend of mine described it like a ball in a box. I don't know if you've heard that one, but there's a button in the box, and at the time that it happens, the ball is always hitting the button because there's so little space. But then as time gets on, button's still there, ball's still there, but the box gets a bit bigger. So it doesn't hit it as often, but when it does, just transports you back to that moment, or when you heard, or you play the highlights reel of all those amazing times, or even the growlings, and because you would give anything to have another growling.
You might have thought that rock bottom was the two things that are really insignificant, but when you lose somebody, that's another level.
I just needed some stable ground, and then Dad passes away. It's like I'm untethered. That's what it felt like. I just need something that's true and that's solid, that's firm, that I can just, catch my breath and then start to walk or start to build from. But yeah, that just blew me out even more.
So how long did it take you to start making those little steps?
Maybe until I really felt like I knew what being Hana meant, probably 12, 18 months. But also in that time, I moved to Perth, and it was hard to be around friends and family here who would check in and be like, hey, how you doing? I was like, shit.
Yeah.
And then be disappointed. It's like, you're still not better? And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go over there, and then I can be a mess over there away from
What
people.
does a mess look like? Because I know some people who are really messy, and they are...
It's probably mild.
Yeah, theirs is like compulsive drinking, might have done, whatever other stuff, recreational stuff, and chaotic and abusive. That's a mess.
Mine's down the other end. It was just probably for the first time as an adult to be still, because I wasn't an athlete anymore, wasn't, pursuing that goal of making a team, and I could just insulate myself. Say, this belief isn't even yours. Throw that out. It's crept back in again. Why is it hanging around? And yeah, it was time to be in my thoughts and in my feels, really, which was so good, but it did hurt people that I went over there, and my family.
It hurt them in what way?
That I didn't grieve with them.
Is this how whakapapa effect came to fruition?
Yeah, so I've always been a writer. Like, I remember growing up just mocking up title of a book and just pretending, to write different chapters about things that probably got burnt or thrown away. But there was always a way that I could process what I was thinking. Because also, by that stage, early 20s, I still wasn't able or didn't have the skills to process my emotions. I'd just cry and then wait for time to do its thing and people forget about it. And that, but if I could write, then I could organise and just match up my thoughts with what I was actually wanting to say or wanting to express. And then I was incorporating, because I was living it, incorporating tupuna mātauranga, whakapapa, to how I was processing everything, what being Hana meant, and piecing that together. So I started to share that on a blog, and then it just eventually grew into the vlogs and into podcasts and other things. Yeah, so whakapapa describes a process. It has many meanings, don't pull me up on that, but it describes a process of how things come to be. So the whakapapa effect of
that's what I want to know.
Hana believed her worth was tied to playing rugby. We can trace that whakapapa back to when I was younger and being praised for making the teams and or my performance then, and being shunned for when I would be inquisitive and curious and ask deep questions and you know, as a kid, you're just trying to make sense of the world. It's like, okay, people don't like me. They want to be around me when I'm asking those types of questions and pestering them. But they do like me, give me praise when I perform. So I'll keep doing more of these things. And then that whakapapa, unfortunately, led to that point in my life. And so it's taking, that's one layer of it. Another layer is the basic creation story of mai te kore ki te pō ki te ao mārama. So te kore being that realm of infinite potential, where everything exists. So ideas, dreams, that intangible realm. And those phases transition into te pō, the darkness, confusion, things coming together but not quite realised. Hapu māmā is a good example of that. So the baby's growing in there, but they need that time to eventually be born into te ao mārama, their world of light, enlightenment, physical manifestation. So even like this setup here was an idea, and then it went through that planning process. There was a whakapapa to how we came to be here right now. And so the whakapapa effect just explores different examples of that. One of the key motivators for the blog, for the podcast, and even the radio show, the whakapapa effect, was because the only written literature about Māori or how we lived at the time was based on like European arrival.
Right.
And they called our tupuna unsavoury name, you know?
Savages, you know.
Savages, barbaric, or unintelligent.
Unintelligent. I love that. And do you know that's in Doctrine of Discovery?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Te Ao Māori and have always been proud to be Māori, and I couldn't understand why people weren't. But then if you understand the whakapapa effect, if you've got negative role models who are Māori, or you see on the news and the media everywhere that just negative stories about Māori, why would you want to embrace that?
Yeah.
And so the blog and everything else that's come from that, or all the mahi that I do covertly, is to share different examples of how that knowledge is still relevant today. Just because may not be living the way our tupuna lived, the philosophies, the wisdom, the pūrākau are still very relevant. And the whakapapa effect was like a bridge, because it's in the name. It's, I think, easy to jump into wherever you're at, even if you know kōrero or if you're just starting out.
You've been doing this since 2016 or 17?
16, yeah. So I did that for 5 years. Every Thursday there was a new blog that I
discipline.
Put out. Yeah, and it's the most I've stuck with anything, because there was another belief as well that I just try things and don't stick with it. Like after school, went to uni, wasn't a good fit, so left. The rugby could even be an example of that. Got injured, so ditched that. So there were always a few layers at play, but yeah, 5 years every week. And that grew as well. Like there was a point where I was doing the blog, I think 9 different expressions of the same thing. But it was cool because it was just me that I had to worry about. And then met my partner, tūmanako, and we grew our whānau. And I wanted to focus my energy on doing that well, whatever that would look like, which meant like it was quite an easy decision for me to stop posting, because I was sharing quite intimate or, personal reflections and stories from my own experiences, but now they weren't just mine.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and with my babies, I've had the thought, there are some stories I know they're going to want to hear from me first that are just ours, that they haven't heard
on a blog.
Or on a podcast, and I'm still figuring out how to do that well, because they're my main priority. I'm my main priority, but our whānau is my main priority. So how can I ensure that I tend to that relationship, and then whatever comes out of that, whatever overflows, can be for everyone else? It was probably about 6 months into writing the blogs and sharing them that I started to focus on atua, and one that was just hanging around was whiro. And at the time, I probably did a poor job of articulating this atua, but associated with misfortune and disease. But now I've come to appreciate whiro's role as that conscience, or as pretty much the whakapapa effect. Like if you're gonna pollute the earth, like you're gonna have all these other bad things happen. Like he's that realm.
There's always a consequence for anything that you do, no matter what decision you make. Like you said.
And he's that.
Yeah.
So he gets a bad rap because it's always when it's things that we don't want. But I know that now. But at the time, I understood when I was grieving for my dad and not going to Rio. I sat more with whiro and understood that grieving time is like he was guiding me through that and through te pō. And then comes in that mai te kore ki te pō ki te ao marama. From that realm of infinite potential comes the uncertainty and darkness, and then eventually light, like that light at the end of the tunnel. But this is a whakapapa in your DNA version of it. So it just provided that comfort that I could be in the dark and chill with whiro and be there, not rush to get rid of the discomfort. I was like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but I'm safe. That was I felt like I was okay being uncertain and unsure. It's okay, te ao marama is going to come eventually. We're not there at the moment, and even the first phases of te ao marama, apparently there are 70, the first phases were still pretty dim and pretty dark, because that's how whakapapa works, and that's the whakapapa that has allowed me to be here. So if I keep following this whakapapa effect, the effect will be like we'll get to the light at some stage. Trust has been a major theme that's just prevailed through everything. It's always been there, but my awareness of it and appreciation for it has just grown immensely, because that same whakapapa is the reason we're here. And by that same whakapapa, if I'm the culmination of all those atua and all my tupuna and they live on through me, that whakapapa sequence lives in me as well. And it's one of those micro, macro, when you blink, that can be te kore pō ao marama. But there's apparently 70 phases of te kore, into 70 phases of te pō, into 70 phases of te ao marama. And like with so many things that Māori and Indigenous people were living and had mastered hundreds of years ago, Western colonial science is only just realising, there might be some benefit to walking bare feet.
Grounding,
to spending time
natural
by
light.
the ocean, natural light, and all these things that our tupuna we're masters of. It is that trust, that trust the universe, trust the process. Like whakapapa is the process, you're whakapapa, so that trust is in yourself. And the more you reaffirm it, or the more you trust in your tupuna, if you need to, for whatever reason, place it elsewhere, it'll come together to eventuate at some stage. And that's the whakapapa effect. Kia wai mahara koe no te pō, koe I mue tō whānau mai ki te ao marama. He tupuna tērā nō, koe rau tupuna, he tamahine nā hine nui te pō. You come from the darkness. It's where that potential is able to form and come together and actualise before it's ready to come into te ao marama. And te ao marama is always going to be there. You're from that place. You know that place, it's familiar, it's in your bones. Don't be scared of it.
Kia ora, Te Oho Ake is made with the support of Te Mātāwai, with host Mere Baker in conversation with Hana Tapiata. Te Oho Ake was produced by Mere Baker and Awhina Kure of Era Vision Media.